Another exciting and live episode of America's Mayor Live. The mayor is uh, unable to be with us this hour, but he is fine. Everything's good. He's, of course, just returned from Michigan. We were in the great state of Michigan with President Trump, who gave a speech before I'd say around 3,000 people, paid dinner guests. Some of these tables went for $25,000. So a great turnout in Michigan for the president. And the mayor, of course, was in town all weekend. We had some events of our own, as you all would have seen on Friday evening. We did our show from an Italian steakhouse. Stephen Lilly's in on the green. It's a great restaurant off the back nine, off a golf course. And wow, what a great place! Owned by Mark Zarkin, somebody who a restaurateur in Michigan, and also someone who supports the principles that built this country and the values that made America great. So we want to thank you. I'm so sorry. So many of you are just you look forward all day for this hour with the mayor, and when you don't have the mayor, it's probably disappointing. It kind of reminds me of, I love Rush Limbaugh. So I listened to Rush Limbaugh for years. And every once in a while, Rush would be busy or unable to do the show, and we'd get, I believe it was Mark Stein. There's a few others that would fill in for Rush. And great people, great guys, super talented, but it's just not the same as when you have Rush. So, and Mike, can we just quickly check in with the audio here? Let's see. Okay, we're good. No, audio looks good. Audio looks good, but just want to make sure. So, thanks everybody for joining us. Great. If maybe even just keeping that comment area might be helpful, so we can. And we're good with Getter too.
Great.
We're awesome. So again, I know it's a little bit different tonight. So again, the mayor is doing well. He is tied up with some things and unable to do the show. All of us know, right? We are now on episode 176. The mayor is here when he can be. I don't know if he's ever missed a full show. If we think back, there were a couple instances where I did fill in, but he was usually attending another event, right? Or he's doing something else. So again, the mayor's doing well, and you will see him again tomorrow night. And by the way, you never know. You never know what might happen, what might happen tonight during this hour. So again, thank you for joining us. Ted Goodman here. You know me a lot of times from being on the other side of the camera. Tonight we have Mike Ragusa, the great Mike Ragusa, on the other side of the camera.
Hello.
Mike hails here in the city of New York. What part of town?
Born and raised in Brooklyn, Ted. I had to unfortunately do 4 years of purgatory in high school in New Jersey, but I moved right back because that life is not for me.
And Mike is a young, up and coming Republican superstar here in the city.
Stop.
Yes, as much
Stop.
no, and as crazy as that might seem, there are Mike and a lot of people I've met through Mike. I can tell you here in the city of New York, the future can be bright, and we can elect good people as long as people like Mike continue to step up to the plate and get into the action.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate that.
So tonight, of course, the big story from the weekend, what's going on in Russia, the Wagner group, the Wagner group. Apparently, they had a lot of issues with Putin. Their leader has been very upset with Putin and accusing the defense ministry in Russia of basically killing his people, right? And so what you saw was he turned his men, I guess we're talking a few thousand, upwards of 25,000, towards Moscow, and they started making their way to Moscow. And Putin, the Russian government, came out and immediately slammed these guys for what they were doing, right? They called them out for basically treason. And eventually, as the Wagner group made their way to Moscow, an agreement was made between their leader and the Kremlin. That at least that's what we were told publicly. The Wagner group stood down. He had his people step back, and they're now being allowed to go to Belarus, a country, of course, that is very close to Putin and Russia, maybe the most strategically important ally for Putin. in the region, and they're being all of the crimes, all the charges are being dropped against the Wagner Group. So again, this is what an interesting situation we have here. Many of you know what's going on. You followed the story. I want to know in the comments. Here we are here in the comment section. Let me know what you think is happening here. We want this to be a discussion back and forth. But it seems a lot of questions here, right? It's a lot of questions. First off, is the Putin government this unstable? Are they this weak? Where we go from just whatever's happening there in one night and the next morning, the Wagner group's marching and Putin's government is threatened. Like how close to being overthrown are we talking here? Right? For a long time, Putin has been able to paint himself as a very strong leader, right? Someone who is in charge of his country. And so it's hard to believe that a group, even 25,000, and I get it, that's not nothing, right? But even 25,000 people, it's hard to believe that a group like that could just come in and overthrow the sitting government under Putin. And I say all this, look, I want to be very open and frank about this. I say this as an American news consumer, right? I'm here in the United States. And while I read and try to talk to as many sources and people that I can and read different news sources, at the end of the day, what we're getting has an obvious bias, right? And whether it's just an American bias, an anti-Russian bias, all sorts of, it's just the facts are we're getting biased information no matter what. So you got to remember that as you read and view some of the footage and the things you're seeing. Right at the end of the day, what we're getting has a bias already. So on the outset, a lot of the stuff you're seeing is coming with this slant, again anti-Russian, pro-Western bent in a lot of cases, right? So let's just accept that fact. Okay, so we're getting this information. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Wagner Group is about to overthrow Putin, and Putin had to leave the Kremlin, right? And they're at the gates, and it kind of plays out like a bad movie. When in actuality, what we might be looking at here is a group, the Wagner Group, a paid. Look, a lot of countries have these groups. These are basically private military contractors, right? Of course, there are idealistic elements to the group, but this group is announces that they have issues with the Russian defense ministry and is calling out the military leadership and accusing them of placing fire right on top of their men and killing them, right? And so they come out strongly and they're going to go. But the way the media played it, discussed it, was as if Putin was about to lose power. And what I am cautioning us to consider is just look, how close was he to losing power? And how weak is the Putin government? And how much of what's going on here and what we're being told is in fact what's happening, right? There's a very strong chance, for example, that this group is being allowed to go to Belarus, and that in a way actually helps Putin having these guys in Belarus, right? In a way that you could look at that as being beneficial to Putin and what they're trying to do in Ukraine. So comment below, let us know what you think is happening, or give us your perspective on what you think what we may see next year. So we'll come back to that maybe in the second half when we do some phone calls, and we'll now turn our attention to election 2024, the campaign for the presidency. On the Republican side, of course, President Trump enjoys a commanding lead, and it almost appears as though he's increasing that lead. And so he's polling near 59, 60% in many cases. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis remains in second place, I would say. In third, would you put Mike Pence there, right? Tim Scott, depending what the polling says, it's pretty clear that it's Trump and then everybody else, right? and he has a commanding lead. And if you saw any of his speeches this weekend, right, the one at the in the great state of Michigan, of course, my home state, or the speech I believe he gave Saturday, Faith and Freedom Coalition, um, one of those great groups. Very strong speeches, very substantive, right? And you can tell he's ready to wade in on some of the issues of the day, right? The culture wars, transgender athletes, um, and the this stuff with the I don't even know how to talk. It's crazy that we're even talking about it, right? Why child mutilation, right? This stuff. What the fact that we're talking about whether or not we should be discussing these issues with 3-year-olds is insane to me. How is this even up for debate, right? So the President Trump is talking about these issues. He's ready to wade into them, and I can tell you just from listening to him last night in Michigan, he's really coming at it with a common sense approach, right? This is the type of conversation when I'm listening to him speak about whether or not transgender athletes should be allowed to participate in female sports, right? It's like, of course not. Of course not. It's not a level. There's just it's scientifically this person is different. And he talks about it in a way that you and I would talk about it, right? He's not trying to he's not going through 10 think tanks and coming up with, a committee to discuss what wording to use. He just talks about these issues in a common sense fashion because he really kind of is the quintessential all-American, isn't he? When you think of President Trump, right? Think pre 2015 Donald Trump. He wasn't painted as a right wing anything. He wasn't even thought of much as a Republican. There was sometimes they talk about it. But he was a savvy businessman, right? He was someone that rappers would rap about. Everybody wanted to be like Trump. He's somebody that people in business schools across the country looked up to and thought of as a great success story, right? The real estate community. Trump's name was on some of the best properties around the world, the greatest pieces of real estate. People that watch television. And I can tell you, I never really got into The Apprentice while it was happening. I understood how popular it was. I just, I don't watch a lot of the primetime television shows unless it's sports or news. But The Apprentice, right? Maybe definitely the most successful television program of that era. And he had the number one show. I mean, Donald Trump I remember a classmate of mine loved Donald Trump. This is 2008. We're in high school and she loved business. She went on to go to business school and everything. She's a Democrat, so I would love to know where she is now on Trump, but she loved Donald Trump, right? I feel like we all, either it was ourselves or someone we knew, really appreciated Donald Trump and his business success, his success with TV, The Art of the Deal, which is considered one of the greatest books on business ever written. And definitely a book I'd recommend. And I learned a lot. And I'm not necessarily a businessman. I guess we all are in one way or another. But I read the book and learned a lot. Look, it's not just for people that want to do business. So again, we're talking about President Trump and campaign 2024. And I thought we'd have a little discussion here, right, on how funny it is, how the power of the mass media, they have a lot of power. And whether it's President Trump or COVID, right? It's something I've learned the last few years through the Trump era and obviously COVID. It's just the power of mass media. There are millions of Americans today. They have nothing against President Donald Trump, right? But they have been, and let's call them um light news consumers. They see a few headlines, right? They care, but they're not, they're focused on their kids' basketball game. They're going to work. They have bowling Thursdays with some other couples. So they catch a couple headlines. They see a few stories online, and with the way the media is today, the headlines, right? They're just all so anti-Trump and they're just so nasty towards him. And so these people, they're just surface level news consumers, and they're just fed story after story about what a nasty, terrible person this is. And that's just not the case, of course. But, when they hear about Trump or something, again, they don't have anything themselves against the man, but they just they have sometimes a react. They just know that, oh, they're always talking about him in the news as this like not good guy. And that's part of the power of mass media. Similar with COVID. Again, yes, early on, I can appreciate the fact that a lot of us, we didn't know what was happening, what was going on. And we wanted to take care of the elderly. We wanted to take care of one another. We wanted to do our civic duty. And we got to a point where you were shamed if you walked outside your house, right? I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time when COVID started. And if you don't remember, I would say March, April 2020, you were shamed if you were outside, and you were an awful human if you were walking around without a mask, even outside, right? And I kept flying. I kept flying almost every week, well into COVID, the fall of 2020, and the airports were empty, and a lot, flights were not a lot of people on these flights. But I would not wear the mask until I was told, they would literally come up to you and say, put that mask on. And again, I would hold out until I wasn't going to make a scene, right? If I needed to get to Detroit, so I'd put the mask on, but I'd hold out as long as I could. And you bet I was wearing my Trump hat the entire time. So,
Ted, let me
Mike,
actually add to that. You know how many department stores and stores I was kicked out of local businesses in my neighborhood for not wearing a mask? I never wore a mask during COVID. A mask is a joke. We all know that. But with that being said, about flying, I flew first class many times during COVID for like $100. So it was pretty good times. I'm not gonna lie.
wow. Oh, so you're saying the prices dropped?
The prices, like I flew from here to Dallas, first class, $79.
First class.
Swear on my mother, ask my brother, $79 each. American Airlines.
How much?
$79. It was an
upgrade. Oh wow!
Like the original ticket for like premium coach was like $80. So
yeah,
a $79 upgrade. You would get first class.
Wow.
During COVID time, like I'm talking like 2020.
Were they serving drinks? Were they serving food?
Serving drinks? Huh? Full meal.
They did do the full meal.
Everything, but everyone had gloves on, and
How full was the plane?
Not full at all, dude. There's probably only, I would say, like 20 people on the plane.
Was everybody wearing masks?
Yeah, everyone was wearing masks.
Let us know if you have a story about flying during COVID. Give us your best COVID story, and give us your best COVID mask story. If you name a time when you were shamed for not wearing a mask, and let us know how that went. So again, thanks for joining us. The mayor's great. He's doing well. He was unable to be with us this evening. As you know, he always wants to be with you and with us, and doesn't like missing the show. And again, I feel like look, I know how you're feeling, right? It's like I felt when I'd go to listen to Rush Limbaugh and he had the day off and he ended up with Mark Stein. And no, again, we love Mark and some of these other people that filled in for Rush, but it wasn't the same. So I totally get it. But we are going to, someone's telling us they were getting Tim Monbrod. Yes, the mayor is okay. Sorry, I'm reading the comments now. The mayor is doing just fine. Of course, though, but you're so used to seeing him, right? When he's not here, it's just it's something different. So you're stuck with me for the hour. We're gonna have some special guests here in a few minutes, a couple of New Yorkers, and we're gonna you can ask some questions with me about what it's like growing up in New York, what the city's like, and we'll have some conversations with them. Of course, we're talking about today the situation in Russia. A lot of questions. My questions are, what's actually happening there, and how accurate are the stories that are getting to us as we sit here in New York City? Let's take what's happening on the ground in Russia, in some of these places where the Wagner Group made some. The Russians would consider them militaristic actions against the Russian military. From where those are happening, right? Where does that how is that information picked up by whom? What editors are looking at it? What producers see it before that information is packaged and put on a website or on camera to the point where we see it, right? So what I'm trying to say here is the news that we're getting, it's just it could be so off from the truth, right? Because for a number of factors, not just the general bias of the news that we get here on what's happening in that part of the world, but also different motivating factors by different people along that along the pathway of the news getting from the ground there to your eyeballs here. Obviously, the motivating factors for our cable news networks and for-profit news organizations is profit. So they want to have a story that, oh, the Wagner Group, they're right there. Putin's, we don't know what's going to happen. Tune in at the top of the hour for the latest, but you're going to want to tune in because it's getting dicey. They're going to play it up for that reason, right? So that's nothing to do with wanting this side or that side of winning or ideology, right? It's simply a profit motive. Then you have these other motivating factors, idealism, right? Pro-American idealism, anti-Russian uh, idealism, and just decades and decades uh, of of propaganda being fed not just to us, but to people who are now making decisions. Right? I think our entire generation's kind of been trained, or almost by default, we look at Russia and have negative thoughts, and of course, we rightfully took down the Soviet Union and defeated communism, right? But that was 30 something years ago. And now the world is a much different place. And this isn't a pro Russian argument by any means. But I think sometimes we oversimplify. We oversimplify the world, and we oversimplify actors. We oversimplify national ambitions of other countries. And so, are we now at a point where the information we're getting, well, we are at this point, right? Where you have to question it. You really have to question it. And critics, right? Critics will tell you, oh, Ted, look at Ted. Who is this guy? He's spouting pro-Kremlin talking points. But by no means am I doing that. Of course, we rightfully defeated the Soviet Union and communism. Great Ronald Reagan and many others really right. Capitalism and the American way of life is what defeated communism. Just the fact, I mean, on its face, we all know Marxism cannot succeed in practice. So I'm going to take that back. Yes, we got to give President Reagan credit. We want to give credit where credit's due, but let's really, but let's really look at this situation and understand that communism, Marxism doesn't work in practice. Where capitalism, how we've done it in this country, can work. Of course, can being the key word there, not will. There's of course a lot of other factors at play here. I don't know where I'm going with this, Mike, but
Well, Ted,
the point being,
I just want to point out to Russia.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the shortest civil war in history of wars, of civil wars. I mean, like less than 20
is it, or is it the second shortest behind January 6th?
Well, that wasn't really a civil war, they say. That was a quote unquote
insurrection, right?
You can't say that.
But how close was democracy to falling that day?
Oh, the closest. AOC was scared for her life, even though she was a mile away in another building.
It's
terrifying.
Isn't
she
it?
Almost got raped, she said.
Oh wow!
Yes, very, very terrifying. Very terrifying. Yes.
Maybe we zoom in a little. It kind of automatically zoomed out on us. Do you know the remote feature there? Yeah. Oh, you got it. Mike's got this down. So again, we're going to monitor the situation in Russia. And look, I'm curious on the mayor's thoughts on this, right? I sit here, I'm talking to you about it, but let's not fool anyone. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on the situation. And I am looking forward to hearing what Mayor Giuliani has to say about what's happening over there as someone who has a lot of experience, obviously spending a lot of time in Ukraine, but of course he also worked for President Reagan. And after serving as the greatest mayor in American history, he spent a lot of time around the world, right, serving as a national security or a consultant for foreign uh, for governments and that, right, on consulting on how to protect themselves against terrorism and all sorts of different things like that. So again, the mayor will be back with us tomorrow night. We just got back from the great state of Michigan where we did the show. We were with President Trump last night to a sold out crowd. Wow, what a great dinner. This man sold out a dinner crowd of over 2,000, where the cheapest ticket was $250. I mean, that's something.
I mean, listen, Ted, wherever you go, other than New York City currently, the mayor is larger than life. Everybody knows this. Unfortunately, here he has some haters, and it's very unfortunate.
He does, Mike, but I will say, even here in New York City, a vast majority of people are excited to see him.
Even liberals.
That's my point in New York, not around the country, but even liberals in New York who were here in the 90s, right? I've seen it right here on the Upper East Side. I see this guy. This guy, sometimes you can tell by looking at someone, right? Based on their dress. I'm not saying anything about based on how they dress. This guy's a liberal, right? You can tell. And I'm like, I'm ready for, something. And he's like, Mayor, we need you back. They're begging. Literally, I've had these guys, Mayor, we need you back. The city was safer. I just wanted to make that point. In New York City, the mayor is beloved. And every once in a while, you get somebody. If you watch Newsmax this past weekend, you'll see a little clip. And I get on this. The mayor, there's a short clip on Newsmax with Johnny Tobacco's Wise Guys.
Yes.
I didn't even see it. Sorry, Johnny. I will see it. We were traveling. But I got a lot of texts. Apparently, they played a short clip of it. Anyway, someone's heckling the mayor. Look, I don't take it. Within a second, I'm yelling back, and I'm just embarrassing these people, right? Some guy who nobody's ever heard of walking down the street has something to say to the mayor. Number one, these people can when you pin them down, right? So why don't you like the mayor? When you ask them to take it a step further, why are you yelling? What's your deal? Either they just can't answer it, right? Because they've obviously been brainwashed by the liberal news. Or they come up with like such a silly response. Something about overthrowing democracy or being with Trump, right? Like, and you can tell in their eyes, it's a lot of that. And but you can see it in their eyes, right? Because I'm looking right at them. You can see it in their eyes. They know they knew they've been caught, and they know they're like, oh God, they know deep down. I'm like, yeah, take all that away. What about the mayor what about the guy who was mayor in New York City in the 90s? What about the guy that took down the mafia? What about the guy that cleaned up the streets of New York, right? All these liberals in the theater district. They come in here for shows. Why do they think they're able to enjoy a nice show any night of the week on Broadway? Because of Mayor Giuliani.
Also,
100%.
I don't know if a lot of people know this. He single-handedly saved firefighters' jobs in 1996 with the merger of EMS from New York Health and Hospitals to the Fire Department of New York. So the fire department was facing great budget cuts in 1996 or 95, I think it was. I can't remember what year it was.
Yeah.
And the mayor had a great idea. He goes, let's merge EMS with fire and let's save these firefighter jobs because we'll start making them respond to medical calls. So the mayor, he really was responsible with the commissioner back at the time of reshaping the whole fire department as we have it today. That was all Mayor Giuliani. And that holds close to my heart because as former FDNY EMS for 5 years, I'm very thankful for Mayor Giuliani because he gave me the opportunity to join the fire department and work alongside America's Brakes.
Wow, and you spent how many years there?
5 years on the FDNY and another 3 with the
and we're gonna have Mike and Luca join us here in just a few minutes. We're going to take a break and hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Go down. Scroll down. Keep going. Video clips. And the down, right there.
Faith and family. freedom, and finance are 4 things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy.
All right, and we're back. Move that over. Move that over a lot more. So it's out of the shot. Okay. Okay. All right, so thanks for joining us. We have 2 special guests with us tonight. Mike, come on in, guys. We're going to get close.
Get close here, guys.
Get real close.
Yep.
Even closer.
All right.
All right. So I'm on here. We have Mike Ragusa here,
Hello, everyone.
and we have here Luca.
How's it going, everyone?
Two New Yorkers, both born and raised here.
Yep.
Right?
Brooklyn, New York.
You're from Brooklyn?
Yep.
Mike, where are you from?
Brooklyn, Bay Ridge.
And Luca, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it's like being a Republican in New York City.
So I grew up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, then moved out to Staten Island. To be honest, as a Republican in New York City, I never had too much of an issue because my neighborhood, Staten Island in general, has been very Republican all my life. So I never really felt out of place until unless I come into Manhattan and mingle with the liberals.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Mike,
Well-
what about you?
Well, so as some may know who've watched this show, that I actually ran for city council in my neighborhood of Bay Ridge. It was District 47. The primaries tomorrow. I'm going to get into some candidates and stuff, but I just want to tell my story. The mayor so graciously endorsed me to run for city council when I ran, and pretty sure I'm the first and only candidate that he ever endorsed for such a local office.
Mhm.
I think that's true. I don't think I'm making that up.
And it was a quick endorsement.
It was
too.
a very quick endorsement.
right?
That's right. I went to the mayor and I told him what I'm about, and he was very pleased. And here I am working for him now, with me and Ted. And he's been a great friend to me. He's been very generous with his time. And but other than that, so I ran for city council. We hired a person from another campaign that I didn't know about at the time. He took my petitioning sheets and they forged some signatures. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then my campaign manager didn't check any of the signatures, and he was the only one getting paid on my campaign.
No.
He put them into the BOE, the Board of Elections.
Yeah.
And 2 days later, I'm in almost every single newspaper. People are calling me a felon, a fraud, this, that, and the other thing, whatever. They're naming me with Trump. They're calling me a mobster, this and that, whatever. So that was that. So I believe in election integrity and, the system. So I dropped out of the race because I didn't want, first of all, the mayor endorsed me and I didn't want to drag his name down because that would not be right. So I did what I had to do. And I dropped out of the race, but I'm still very involved in the politics. I'm involved with the party, things like that, and I'm helping out a few candidates here and there. And then that's really it.
Well,
Yeah.
And Luca, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about Liga? Talk about Liga. What does it stand for? And tell our audience
Right.
what they do.
So Lega is an Italian political party.
Mhm.
You may know Matteo Salvini. He's the leader of Lega. And I'm actually a dual citizen of the U.S. and Italy.
Oh,
So
wow.
my parents,
Yes.
because Italy has jus sanguinis laws, which means that you get your citizenship through right of blood.
Mhm.
So
Where
passes
you
down.
you have Italian citizenship
Right.
because of both your parents are Italian citizens?
And if your grandparents are born there, you get it as well.
Actually, my mom revoked her citizenship, or Italian
Well,
citizenship.
why would one revoke their citizenship? I'm guessing there's reasons.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure why, but actually, part of the reason why I got my Italian citizenship and went through the process was because in Italy, they actually, if you don't pass on property or like, your house could be adversely possessed, and it's much easier, and they'll just put immigrants in the house.
Adverse possession.
Yep.
Definitely a law student or a lawyer here.
Mhm.
Studying for the bar right now.
That's awesome. That's
1 month.
awesome.
Yeah.
So say that again though. That's interesting. If you don't, you're saying explain that again. If you
So-
have property but you're not there,
Right. So I guess if the property lapses for some period of time,
Yeah.
it's not conveyed to another
Yeah.
person rather quickly, the state will actually repossess your property, and they'll more likely than not they'll use it for recent immigrants.
is that
from-
what's happening?
Yeah.
Do you spend a lot of time in Italy?
Growing up, I would go every single summer. Yeah.
Oh, so you have family there. I mean,
family, half my family is there. Yeah.
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. But I grew up in New York.
Is there a lot of New Yorkers? Would you say there's a lot of people here in New York that go back to Italy a lot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or-
yeah.
Especially in my neighborhood of Bay Ridge, Dyker Heights,
Right.
Bensonhurst. There's still very old school people that moved here from Italy, and they go back to Italy time. And Luca's
Interesting.
neighborhood as well in Staten Island.
So the Italian American community, I don't know if it's this way for every culture, but
So
you
actually,
keep
what's
close your root back in Italy.
what's
you guys
really
are-
interesting is Italy is one of the few countries, actually probably the only country, that has seats for Italian Parliament designated for Italians abroad. So there are
Mhm.
seats from
No
North
way.
America,
Yep.
South America, where there's a huge Italian diaspora,
That's right.
Europe, Oceania, Australia.
there's someone that represents the Italians in North America.
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
Lega.
And-
Lega.
Yeah,
in
well,
the-
in Parliament, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the national coordinator for Lega in the U.S. and I made Mike my vice coordinator. Once
It's
I
an
moved.
honor.
So
Yeah.
you are an official part of the Italian
Political party.
Correct.
political party right
Correct.
now, sitting
Yeah.
here in
Correct.
New York.
Yeah.
And you're the coordinator.
Yep.
So does that make you the representative
North
So
for
you're
all
the-
of North America.
for all of North America?
Mhm.
You represent the Italians here. Anyone that has Italian citizenship.
Well, there's what's called comites, which are these committees wherever there's an Italian, like a sizable Italian
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
So I would actually serve in the comites, which is run through the Ministry of
Yeah.
Foreign Affairs of Italy.
Wow.
And but I would say I'm a representative now for just Lega, and Mike is my vice.
So will you be going to Italy to
Yeah,
conduct certain business?
this year, next year, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
planning on. Well, the reason why I didn't go, I didn't plan anything this year because I thought I was going to be running in an election, but
Yep.
you know what happened. So
Yeah.
I actually have
Next, we got
I have an
another year or
exclusive.
two.
I have an exclusive for you guys.
Exclusive. I wish we had a
Yeah.
news like a
bulletin.
exclusive, like a
That's right. So I know
Mike's got some news for us.
there's a lot of people watching from my neighborhood right now because I posted it on the Facebook group or whatever. I want to
What's
let
the
you
name of your neighborhood again?
Bay Ridge.
Bay Ridge.
Yeah, I want to let you guys know who sabotaged my campaign. I try to give this to a bunch of people, but I'm giving it to the mayor.
Oh,
an
breaking
exclusive.
news.
Exclusive.
Breaking
okay?
news. Mike's going to share with us now
I'm gonna tell you exactly
who
what
is
happened.
behind.
And I want you to look him up and not even vote for him tomorrow in the primary because tomorrow is the city council primary. Do not vote for this man because he is a scumbag.
Wow.
That's right.
New York City politics.
That's right. It's a dirty business.
Okay.
It's a dirty business. So I will tell you the story. Avery Pereira is running for city council in my district. He is a fake Republican. There's a video of him from 2016 saying Trump was the worst decision ever made by the GOP. He says Trump is a disgrace. Hold on, I'm not done yet. He also has a Twitter tweet from 2020 stating he's going to endorse Joe Biden, which I don't know who he's endorsing because Avery Pereira is literally a nobody and he can't afford 4 more years of Trump. So Avery Pereira, his campaign manager, Nick Chambaris, he's very well known in the Brooklyn GOP. Nobody likes him. He's a loser, whatever. He sent someone into my campaign. They took my petition sheets, like I said, forged a sitting assemblyman's signature on my stuff, gave it back to the kid, and the kid is let's just say he's not all there. That's all I'm going to say, to put it nicely. They took advantage of a kid who may or may not have mental disabilities. That's all I'm going to say. So he gave me back the petitioning sheets. We submitted them. And like I said, what happened was they sent the plant. And then the next couple days I was in the news and I had to withdraw. So these guys wanted me out so bad and they were so scared of me that they single-handedly sabotaged my campaign. Avery Pereira, do not vote for him tomorrow in Bay Ridge. Do not vote for Anna Delphos. Vote for Ari Kagan.
So one thing, I mean, look, running for office isn't easy.
No.
And what Mike just described to you, I've actually seen at some of the highest levels. I've seen this happen to front runner gubernatorial candidates in big states. This whole petition stuff, right? This sort of stuff happens. Right. It's so unfortunate when you have someone like Mike, right? Someone I've gotten to know, just a good guy. He's always, he'd give the shirt off his back for you. And even if he barely knows you, right? He's that kind of guy. He goes out of his way to help others. And it's not even about partisan politics, right? He's just a good guy. So,
I don't care what party you are. I'll help you. It doesn't matter to me. Black, white, green, independent, Democrat, doesn't matter. If you need my help on the street, number one, I serve the city and I still serve the city. I work at Rikers Island. I was FDNY-EMS. So my job, my lifetime of career, I served the citizens of New York, incarcerated, not incarcerated, sick. I see New Yorkers at their worst times. So I was the perfect candidate for city council because.
So did you think politics was this dirty? I mean, look, we all hear about it, and nobody wants to sit here and say I had the wool pulled over my. But
no.
What is it coming from a world you come in where you help people, right? EMS, law enforcement, you're helping people. Coming from that world into politics, what is that? What did that been like?
So I was approached by Frank Morano to run for Congress actually first against Bill de Blasio. Bill de Blasio dropped out, and at the time I was a registered independent.
Yeah,
because I had no faith in the New York Republican Party at all because they honestly they suck. They can't win seats. I'm sorry, I'm saying it. Like it's just hard to be a Republican here. They don't do it right. I hope Ed Cox now. This was previously. I switched back to Republican, and obviously,
by all accounts, I hear Ed Cox is just a good man.
That's what I'm saying. I hope Ed Cox can turn the Republican Party of New York State around. I really hope so.
Doesn't it take good candidates? I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No. It does take good
candidates. At the end of the day take good. People like to criticize the party. Let
me get to that. I'm not done yet. Okay. So basically, I reached out to the local leaders of my party, Brooklyn GOP, Conservative Party, and I let them know, hey, I'm running for city council. Just wanted to introduce myself. Whatever. I gave them thing. They kind of blew me off. They didn't take me serious. No problem. Then I got the endorsement from the mayor. Then I got the endorsement from Sid Rosenberg on WABC. Then I outraised everybody the first round. Then they started taking me seriously, but they still wouldn't give me their support.
Okay.
So I feel like they secretly kind of like told people, don't take me serious, blah, blah. And it kind of messed me up from the start. But now next time, we know better who to trust and who not to trust.
That's right. So I guess you could
if I run
it's definitely a learning experience. And oftentimes, and I work with people that run for office all across this country. And oftentimes, right at the end, you can prepare and talk and do everything. But sometimes the only way to learn, you got to do it. Right.
Right. And
people will tell you that. So, and people that are successful in other fields, you might be politics, running for office. It's a different animal. And often you learn the hard way. Luca. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say before we get to Luca, if anyone on this show is planning to run for politics, or whoever's listening in, you need to have thick skin and you cannot trust anybody. That's the two advice I give you. Trust me. I know best.
Yeah, he's got some experience.
I have experience with it. But Luca, sorry.
No, Luca. Yeah. So talk about. So of course you're involved with Liga, right? Are you involved here locally? What in your mind? What will it take for the Republican Party to start winning again? Not just in New York City, but in the cities. I feel like there's such an opportunity for us,
right?
Based on what say you?
Well, I mean, I've noticed recently, like, just going out into the street, getting to know people, that a lot of the like minority communities have been changing their mind about Biden, and I feel like they're more inclined to vote for Trump for the next election. So it just takes people at the local level to really get involved, and people like Mike, who just no interest in politics before, just went head on, and unfortunately learned some dirty lessons in the process. And that's it. I think people just need to get more involved and engaged and give it a go.
I think the parties need to grab their catzos, their balls, and just like spend a lot of money. Because let me tell you something: the guy who's running as a Democrat in my city council, he spends, and he's been there since 2017. He spends money. He owns the social media. He knows what he's doing. The Republicans, unfortunately, need to take lessons from the Democrats on social media. I'm not talking about policies. I'm just talking about strategy wise, and then that's how you win elections. You need to play dirty, because the Democrats play dirty. They are filthy. They play very dirty, especially in New York City politics.
I can't imagine, right? Like, yeah, New York City, right?
Yeah.
I'm coming from the Midwest. Look, I've seen a lot, but I cannot imagine the Democrat Party in New York City, and
right,
some of the happenings there.
You have characters in city council like Tiffany Caban, who's a straight socialist. She's AOC's twin. You have Chiosi, who hates Italians, who publicly said he pretty much hates Italians.
Yep.
That seems like a tough position to take, especially in a city like New York.
Well, he got a lot of flack.
Anti-Italian.
Wait, but
Yeah,
Ted,
New York City, like,
Ted, it gets
really?
better. It gets. Speaking of
mean-
Italians, while we're on that, it gets better. You know what city council is trying to put through? They want to ban coal-fired pizza ovens. Some of the oldest pizzerias in New York City are coal-fired. Totono's in Coney Island, Campagna, they have a chain. But meanwhile,
What?
Half the city's gonna go out of business.
wait, hold on. But they just passed the bill and executed it to put crack pipe vending machines with Narcan and lip balm in neighborhoods so crackheads can go to a vending machine for free. Our tax dollars are paying for it, and get a crack pipe, a safe crack pipe. And then when your lips get chapped, you just do a little lip balm.
Oh my gosh.
And then that's it. So this is the kind of ass backwards city
You
council.
can't make this up. I swear, Mike, you're making.
I'm not making it
I know
up.
you're not. I know you're not. I've seen the stories, right?
I'm so upset.
But you guys like me, where it's like we hear Mike, and it's I can't believe like this is reality. Like what? We're getting rid of the coal-fired pizza ovens, right? Where every pizzeria in this town, and we're adding crack pipe vending machines.
So what's the reasoning for it? Is it carbon emissions or
Right. So the liberals' reasoning is carbon emissions, but all the tractor trailers that come into the city all day, smoking cigarettes, e-bike fires, none of that has to do with the environment.
But they know the pizzeria. They know these owners weren't going to vote for them anyway.
Outraged. They're outraged.
Well, especially after COVID.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So the Democrats, they don't care.
They don't care.
These are not their voters. If anything, they're punishing them for not.
so
It's almost a punishment.
crime is not a problem in the city for them.
No.
None of this matters. It's pizza ovens.
Pizza ovens. And
how does that make you feel as an
well, first of all, as Italians.
Oh yeah, right.
It's discriminatory.
They're clear. I mean, coal-fired pizza ovens. I can't.
This really boils
Who are they? Yeah, who else could they possibly be targeting?
So, Totono's in Coney Island is the oldest pizzeria. Oh, well, besides Lombardi's, is one of the oldest pizzerias in New York City. It's been there. They use coal. Like, what are they going to do? That's a tourist attraction. Do you know how much money they generate from just being a tourist attraction? And now you're going to tell them they have to change their oven? First of all, the pizza's not going to taste the same, right, Luca?
No,
it's not going to taste the same at all.
You can't get you know, the Neapolitan style.
Exactly, Neapolitan style. Margarita,
oven,
right?
Yeah, margarita.
Exactly. That's right.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and play our commercial a second time.
Okay.
And we want to thank our two guests tonight. Well, not just guests. Obviously, Mike is now with us full time, as many of you know.
Yes.
But Luca will want to have back. So many other questions for Luca.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I was going to be on camera today.
He didn't know, but look at this guy. He's camera ready.
He's handsome.
He's good to go. What do you mean?
But me and Mike, we did color coordinate.
And they did coordinate, which is why we had him kind of go on the ends.
Well, one thing about New Yorkers, we're always dressed for a funeral. Always in black.
You might have to be in this city.
Yeah. So we'll start the commercial here. That'll give us a little break to reset, and everyone will get to hear from Kirk Elliott a second time.
Faith and family, freedom and finance are four things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy.
Oh, fuck. Zoom in. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. Mike, we're going to zoom in here a little bit. If you zoom in, the lighting should fix. Angle the camera down a little bit and then bring the camera down a little bit. Couple clicks. Couple clicks. Boom, boom. One more. Hide that light. Okay. And then turn down the light a little. And maybe move that one over there too. Oh, see, now it's getting better. Oh, see, perfect. Look at that. Well, what a great segment. What fun. Mike and Luca, two great New Yorkers and Republicans. So it was nice having them on the show for a few minutes. So again, a busy Monday, a lot happening. The mayor will be back tomorrow. He's doing just fine. We just got back from Michigan, where he had a very busy weekend. We stayed busy. We visited the Henry Ford Museum and Greenfield Village. So imagine visiting the Henry Ford Museum and Greenfield Village with the mayor. Here, there's Honest Abe. I want you to see Abe Lincoln behind me here. So we're gonna go right here. So, of course, the stories we're covering tonight: Russia, what's really happening with the Wagner Group, how close to a coup did we see there? It almost seems a little silly, right? I saw one article. The Wagner Group is making their way towards Moscow. The Russians are rushing to defend Moscow, as if it's just seems a little silly. I don't know. I question how close Putin was to actually losing power, but I come back tomorrow night because I'm curious to hear the mayor's thoughts and expert opinion on the matter. Right. And so it's funny. I hesitate sometimes to take a strong position on things, knowing who I work with, Mayor Rudy Giuliani. I mean, this guy knows more about, you can just name a part of the world, right? And and he's probably been there half a dozen times, and can tell you the details, right? Really get into the minutia. And look, I can appreciate the fact that from my position here, there's only so much I can know and understand about what's happening in Russia, and especially when it comes to public opinion. Just as it's tough for them to really understand, right, the mood of the country and public opinion from their perspective, and it's definitely going to throw them off if they're consuming CNN and MSNBC all day. I mean, that's not going to give them a full picture of how the country is feeling. And that's why, of course, countries have intelligence assets, aka people, crawling all over this place, right? Whether it's in Washington, New York, and across the country from sea to shining sea. Being an open society also means being open to our adversaries to a certain degree, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they have plenty of spies here in America. So we're covering what's happening in Russia, or we wanted to talk about it. I'd like to hear from you what kind of your thoughts as an American, right? And how this war will play in your decision when it comes to voting in 2024. As we talk about the election, of course, President Trump enjoys a commanding lead on the Republican side. And the Democrat process, you have President Biden, and you have this man with a last name you may have heard of, Kennedy, right? And don't just take that for granted, that last name, right? The Kennedy name, the Kennedy brand, it remains very powerful. I'm 31. My parents, right? All you hear about are the Kennedy Democrat. So many of our parents from my generation, their parents are Kennedy Democrats. and I bet you talk to any early 30-something-year-old Trump supporter, I bet you a lot of them, their parents were Kennedy Democrats. What say Mike?
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. If Trump wasn't running this time, and it came down to Kennedy and another Republican, I might vote for Kennedy because honestly, he's a moderate.
And you're not alone.
And I'm not, listen, there's a lot of Republicans coming out that said the same thing. If Trump wasn't running, Kennedy would get their vote because number one, the guy is jacked. He believes in
Wait, jacked like he's like
dude. Have you seen this guy?
no Robert Kennedy? I didn't know that. Yes, I've seen him. I didn't know he was known for being
literally
jacked.
has a six-pack because he believes in TRT therapy, which is testosterone replacement therapy, which is all natural because you have testosterone.
Yeah.
He's jacked. He's not a mummy like Biden. He's actually educated, unlike Biden. He's anti-vax, which is cool. Anti-COVID vax, obviously, which is definitely cool. He's anti-mandate. So honestly, if he switched over to Republican, if Trump wasn't running, I think he would have a good shot.
You know what? I think Mike brings up a very good point. And the Democrats are better at this than the Republicans, right? The Republican Party leadership in 2016, they wish they did to Trump what the Democrat Party successfully did to Bernie Sanders, right? And this time around, I would usually, you know what? Kennedy something might happen here. And I don't want to count that out. But the Democrat Party is much better at getting in line, so to speak, right? And they got Hillary there in 16. They got Biden there in 20. And when I say they, I guess let's not oversimplify it, right? When I say they, we're talking about the current people. At the end of the day, it comes down to people, right? Still, maybe in the future with AI, at some point we're going to be having a different singing a different tune. But for now, we say the Democrat Party, we say the government, it comes down to people. So there are the current people in charge of the Democrat Party, right? So the people who ran the Democrat Party in 2016 were successful in getting Hillary Clinton the nomination.
Well, I see the chat here, and a lot of people are saying that, wait, Kennedy was a Hillary Clinton supporter back in 2016. I did not know that. I apologize, but I think he changed his tune. So I didn't know he supported Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
that's
look,
gross.
With Kennedy. Look, people are excited by him, and we all get it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to him than, unfortunately, right? And not to bring it back to Trump, but it's another reason I think a lot of folks Trump supporters are so much in his camp. There's none of this question. You don't have to question him or it's not surface level. It's very real, right? His positions. So just getting back to what we were talking about here, just a few minutes left. It'll be interesting to see how the Democrat primary process plays out with President Biden showing obvious signs of literal weakness, physical weakness, right? He's also showing some signs of political vulnerabilities. And when Kennedy is polling at the same level as DeSantis is on the Republican side, it begs the question, does Biden have to debate? Will he be in a position where he's forced to? Or can he simply hold out with the media's backing, right? The media will certainly be in Biden's camp. They despise Kennedy, mainly because Kennedy is willing to speak out against the vaccine. And these media companies at this point almost solely rely on big pharma ad dollars to operate. So he's going to have an uphill battle, and do not underestimate the power of big pharma. Even though we all are on the same page and we understand what's happening here, there are millions and millions, tens of millions of Americans who don't even question, right, what's happening here. Anyway, so we don't want to go down that rabbit hole there.
Well,
but the point being, Mike's bringing up what Mike is saying is it's the way not only a lot of Trump supporters feel, but I feel there are a lot of Americans out there who are giving Kennedy a strong. But Mike, will he be able to get his message to enough people?
So what I was going to say is I was watching Fox News the other day, and some senator, he used to be a congressman or senator, he's a Democrat, and he's obviously pro-Biden. He was on the Faulkner Focus, and he said, I don't know if you believe in this, if you heard of any of this in campaigns, that because Joe Biden's the president, he doesn't need to debate anybody. He's just going to not debate because he's already the sitting president. He doesn't need to get involved in childish debates, and that's only for candidates. What would you say about that?
In a primary
Right. In a
he can
primary.
take that.
Correct,
Yes, he
correct.
can
In
take
a
that
primary,
position.
Not a general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. He
Yeah.
can say, I get what you're saying.
Right. Right.
I'm obviously the default nominee, right? Most part, not every cycle though. If you look back in history, sitting presidents have been challenged. But yes, he can take that position. I'm the de facto nominee as the sitting president, and so I'm not going to debate. Now, my question is, Mike, will combination of factors here. Robert Kennedy is striking a certain nerve with a certain set of voters, not just with vaccines, but on some other issues, right? He's very much known to talk about certain issues involving food and that sort of stuff. Obviously, the environment. Will the media and will the powers that be successfully censor him? Now, Bernie Sanders, they didn't censor the guy, right? He was able to get his message out. They beat him.
He was sabotaged by Clinton.
He was
That's right.
he was sabotaged by Clinton in 16.
Yep.
And by Clinton's people in
Right.
20.
Right.
Right. And so they took him down, a good old political hit job.
That's right.
This guy, we'll take him down. We know the machinations of the party process. We'll take him down. Not concerned. RFK, they don't like this guy because, the main reason again is it is as simple as this. His position on vaccines and the legacy media outlets are almost completely funded by Big Pharma. And so they call him a kook. They call him I think they call him like they've called him like a right-wing conspiratorial.
They banned his anti-Fauci book on Amazon. And I told the mayor a couple episodes ago, he had to threaten to sue Amazon to get his book back on Amazon.
Yeah. And he got it back on?
He got it back on. The thing that scares me about RFK is that if Biden loses the primary against him and he runs a general against Trump, I think he'll take the moderate voters away from Trump, like moderate Democrat. You know what I'm saying? Like I think
the Kennedy Democrats,
right?
So
he'll persuade
the Reagan Democrats.
The Reagan Democrats. That's right. He'll persuade the moderates to vote for him instead of Trump because he'll start calling Trump an extremist. Blah. You know how it's gonna go. If it gets to a general.
And the media, that'll be interesting where the media goes in a Trump versus Kennedy. I think they go with Kennedy. I think Trump still remains the media's number one enemy of the media.
Of course.
But that's a good point that Mike brings up. And that would be interesting how that would play out. Would Kennedy be able to win over some of Trump's voters by and he'd be using the media, right? And the powers that be. I would suggest to you that Trump would beat Kennedy in a landslide. However, that's because Trump is Trump. Kennedy, I think, would give some of these other candidates a run for their money. Absolutely. Obviously, that last name. Let's not.
God forbid Trump gets indicted, convicted on this bull crap that's going on. Whatever. God forbid if DeSantis runs against Kennedy, I think Kennedy will smoke him. That's my opinion. I don't know if anybody agrees with me.
I happen to share that.
You share this opinion.
I don't think there's a.
But with that being said,
I think that's a zero. There's a 0% chance of that happening.
Obviously. With that being said, a Kennedy presidency might not be that bad.
Yeah, compared
to Biden. It might be like we're in heaven.
Oh my gosh.
Because we're in hell
well,
right
at least
now.
we wouldn't have now I'm going to sound like the mayor. At least we wouldn't have a crook in the White House, right?
That's right.
That alone is reason to not have this guy. And let's give Biden's team and whoever's around the guy, they have successfully painted this man as like your friendly Uncle Joe up until I'd say a year or so ago, right? I think now he faces two issues that he didn't in 2020. He is, in fact, out of it, and it's showing, right? They can't keep hiding it at this point, and they'll keep trying, but enough people will see through it. Like, this guy is out of it. And two, the corruption, the fact that this guy is, in fact, a criminal, that's coming out more. And I don't think he can be all shucks Uncle Joe anymore.
Beating up corn pop and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, Biden actually lawyered up today, so I believe he's thinking that something might happen. You only lawyer up if you're guilty. That's my opinion. we have a future lawyer here. What do you think about that, Luca? You lawyer up if you're guilty? Yeah.
So look, we have just a minute here left. Just a minute here to go. So I want to close out. We want to thank you for joining us on another exciting evening. The mayor will be back with us tomorrow evening. And again, I feel like, and look, I get how you're feeling tonight. As a lifelong Rush Limbaugh listener, avid listener, there would be those days where I'd come to listen to him, and you'd hear his fill-in guest host. Nothing against those guest hosts, right? But it's just not the same. So for those of you that stuck with me all hour, I want to thank you. For those that tuned in a little bit, thank you very much. Thanks for being along for the ride. We're continuing to get better each and every day. You can visit rudygiulianics.com, catch up with his latest podcasts and live streams. And please consider becoming a super follower on Twitter. We're one of just a few accounts, that number is growing, that have the super follow status. And for just $10 a month, you can be a super follower right there on Twitter. And I'm selling it not just as a place where you can get exclusive content of the mayor, right? Video reactions and stuff, but really we want you to put some skin in the game and be part of this fight, right? For just $10 a month, you're supporting what the mayor's doing day in and day out. And you know it, no days off. He's not here right now on the show, but you know he did his radio show today. And you know that he'll be here tomorrow. And you know where we were on Sunday, Michigan. We'll be in New Hampshire later this week. We'll be in Florida soon enough. Some other places. So this man is fighting day in and day out. That's why I'm here. That's why Mike's here. That's why, that's why all of you are here. So don't, and if you don't have Twitter, talk to your kids, someone who's on Twitter, and ask them to support the mayor, because God knows we could use a 1,000 Mayor Rudy Giuliani's.
Amen.
And unfortunately, we just have the one, but fortunately, we have the one. So on that note, I want to thank you for joining me. Thank you, Mike, our guest tonight, Luca, all of you. We'll be back again tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. You'll see the mayor. So God bless Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given